Hey everybody, it's Joe Artis Horn, and I had to stop what we were doing to share a series of things that happened today that are nothing short. The phrase that I was using about an hour and a half ago was, Lord, we need a loaves and fishes moment. Let me explain the backdrop.
Yes.
These guys know what I'm talking about, and then we're going to talk about two very specific individuals that have a multi-year plot that finally led to breakthrough today. First, there was a miscommunication, and the group that was here today had all of the boys and all of the girls show up in 1 hour slots. And long story short, for the zip line activity, way more children than can mathematically fit through the zip line in the time that was given. And I'm like, this isn't miscommunication. So I go immediately to the group's leadership, and I was just brutally honest. I said, mathematically, this isn't going to happen. But then I look over my shoulder and I see a whole age variety of kids dogpiling in at the same time who expect that they're going to ride the zip line. So now I've got, the dreams of riding a zip that could be shattered, or the expectation of something they were looking forward to being dismantled, or God, you have to pull a loaves and fishes and stretch this hour out into about 2 hours. And to give you some context here, I honestly didn't get a chance to do a head count. It was probably close to 16 or 18 per group. And if you try to fit 10 per 45 minutes to an hour through the zip, it's too fast paced. It's rushed. It's tense. You don't feel like if a child has a moment that you have the time to accommodate that and flush that out. It becomes more of a time treadmill, and that is always something we refuse to do here. So again, normally would have told the group ahead of time, don't even build in this expectation. But again, cross communication, and suddenly they were here. God, we need a loaves and fishes moment. But what I wanted to highlight here is that even though we were pressed for time, the young boys and the older boys, all of them, and the younger girls and the older girls groups, all of them, including the apprehensive ones that had been shut down previously in years before, all of them zipped. We ended up with like 15 minutes early on the clock when we should have needed at least another hour to get the volume of almost 40 kids through that we did. And that's what I mean when I say it was a loaves. It wasn't even a loaves and fishes. It was like a desserts and buffets kind of moment. It was way more. God delivered way more than the minimum that we would have needed. The reason why this was nearly a disaster on today in particular, a little bit of backstory. There was a little boy here named Zane. He's here now, actually, who in 2022 and 2023 came up to the top of the crow's nest, became one of those children with a need to stall, process. This is too much. I'm overwhelmed. What would it take to get you to trust the equipment? Let's talk about time, cadence, pacing, etc. And we simply ran way over time, ran out of time, and he left saying maybe next year. And of course, everybody's celebrating his bravery for going back up to give it another try. Last year, when we didn't have insurance, I saw Zane again at a neighboring camp because we weren't able to have camp here. And he told me, he said, Uncle Joe, this was going to be the year I was going to ride the zip line, man. It was going to be the year. But, we're over here at this other place. They don't have the same amenities. So going into 2025, he's graduating out of the program now. He's hit maximum age for this unless he goes to Teen Reach or comes back as a counselor, which I always tell these kids is the way to come back forever is you got to be a counselor. Planting that seed, and it's beginning to work. We now have young kids that heard that are coming back as counselors. But Zane's here this year, and I went and found him last night at the dining hall, and I said, Zane, this is the year, man. It's the 4-year countdown, man. This is it. It's the final hour. Because if Zane had decided not to zip today, unless he comes back as a counselor or he ends up in the Teen Reach program, this was his last shot. And you can't imagine, I can't even unpack the 4 years that we've spent with Zane. A lot of these kids we've served for years. We get to know them. And I'm just telling you, you have to trust me. Let this be a 30-second download. Zane needed this in colossal ways for the development of his whole worldview. The way that he views himself, the way that he views his value, the way that he affects other people, his standing, the whole world gets filtered through a lot of what happens at these camps for these kids, which is why it's so important that it's handled delicately, even if they decide not to zip. This is why we build out a win in having gone to the top of the crow's nest to just take a bird's eye look, or celebrating their courage for even thinking about it, or setting a boundary. They've decided they don't want to ride a zip line, and adults respect that boundary instead of try to coerce them into something they've said they don't want to do, because they've gotten plenty of that, a lot of these kids, from where they've come from. So Zane knew this was it, man. This was DEFCON 5. This was year 4. This was the Super Bowl. And he came up, and just like history, he starts apprehensively yesterday at the rock wall. And I said, Zane, I'm going to climb this wall with you. And I had one of my staff clip into my harness, and he and I went up together, man, all the way to the top of the rock wall. And he smashed the bell, and it was a huge raucous series of whistles and applause. And I said, tomorrow, and I got a picture, by the way. I don't know if I can post it. I got a picture of he and I. I've got his hand up like he's the winner of the world. And I don't have that picture yet. I'm going to ask permission for it. But even if I show it, I'll have to blur his face. But I got that picture, and I'm hoping I'll get it. But I said, man, this is the kind of breakthrough you need tomorrow. When you get to the zip line and you feel that familiar apprehension, you start to doubt yourself, you just bust through that wall of fear and you go for it. Don't overthink it. Trust me, trust the equipment, trust the process, go for it. All right, Uncle Joe, all right, all right. He got here, and from the beginning of the first hour, we saved him to the end just in case, so he could see all the other boys zip. His counselors are in his head. You've got this. You can do this. This is the final countdown. It was almost like the retired champion of the world, former champion boxer, was like here, and he's pulling out the chops and he's warming up, and he's got his coach doing like this, and you've got this thing. And for some of these kids, that's the actual word picture that fits this story most accurately. That's how substantial these moments are. So Zane comes up to the top of the crow's nest. Jamie Woodle, who's in the back over there, you can squeeze in and wave your hand. She's up here in the crow's nest with me. And we knew that we didn't have time for Zane to get stuck. Yeah. So rather than stop and investigate fears and rehash last year, given the context of this buildup, he comes to the top. I said, Zane, it's go time, man. You got this. No hesitations. Don't worry. Don't get stuck. Don't overanalyze. Don't get lost in the process. When it's green light, when it's go time, just go. He's all clipped in. We've got the zip clear from the other side. He's safe. They're ready. Nobody's underneath the activity. Everybody's standing by. We're ready for Zane. And for a half second, he starts to hesitate, and you can see him leaning back. And I said, no, Zane, it's go time. You got to go. Normally, I'm never that insistent, but given the context of the backstory and my relationship with Zane, it's go time, man. Go. Jamie steps in. It's go. You got to go. Zane, this is it, man. This is it. Go, go. And it was almost like, you saw it. It was almost like he wants to process it. He wants to hold on to yesterday, but there's too many voices just saying go, and each go seemed to kind of compel him forward, and then suddenly he just wasn't on the platform anywhere. He's going down the zip. I've never heard a more unified, raucous Super Bowl touchdown, overtime winning score, series of whistles and screams in my life than what happened today out here at the high zip. And Zane gets back up, man. You could see that the team's all around him. This is a humongous moment for Zane.
Right. Yeah.
And so Zane is one of those, man, that only God knows in the currency of life, moments, decisions, encounters with Christ that are undeniable here at Whispering Ponies Ranch. Only God knows in his currency how high a transaction that really was in the long scope of Zane's life. But we do everything we can here at Whispering Ponies Ranch to have those encounters and to push for those successes. And for a lot of those kids, now they're coming back as counselors. They've graduated out of the program. They're young adults now. And they're saying, Uncle Joe, I remember the time. And I want to tell you, it's because of supporters that support this ministry financially and prayerfully. People that support Skywatch TV that have allowed us to do this. Because without you all cheering us on and allowing us to do this through your support, none of this happens. It takes a lot of money to serve the children in the volume that we do for the summer months out here at Whispering Ponies Ranch the way we do, with the cost of food service and insurance and all of the stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're very grateful that you have allowed us to live our dream and vicariously maybe for you, you're getting to also plant seed into something that means something to you through what God is doing here at WPR. Does anybody want to say anything before I jump one more gear here and talk about Skyanne? Does anybody want to buttress what I said about Zane? These girls all have memories with Zane. My little one is bawling. I look over and I said, Nita, she's like, I'm not crying. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. Does anybody want to say anything about Zane before we switch gears?
He was so excited to get down on the other end. He wanted to go again.
Yeah.
He wanted again. And then when we got on the putt-putt, he is still whooping and hollering over victory. That
Oh, yeah.
Like that to all his buddies. He did it. He did it.
He will go home today with a smile from ear to ear because of that victory.
He will never forget that moment.
Very quickly, one of the girls from the girls group, her name was Skyanne, very similar plot. She had been up here in 2023, 20 minutes over. At the end of this event, we decided that it was probably best for her to come back down from the crow's nest and decompress. The group ran out of time, and she came back this year and had her moment of victory, very much like the story we just told. And so I didn't spend as much time, exhausting that story or that plot. But that doesn't mean that Skyanne is not just as precious to us.
Yeah.
I'm just, for the sake of time, we've got things we must do. We've got hard breaks here in a second to other programs and things. The group is about to check out here in about an hour, and we got to get to the hug line where we're going to say not goodbye, but farewell until next year for all of these kids. Several of them, like Zane, are graduating out this year, and one of the hard things for us is we don't know if we're ever going to see some of these kids again. We hope that we do, obviously. One of the biggest rewards is seeing them come back as young adults to do counseling. But thank you from the bottom of our hearts here at Whispering Ponies Ranch for allowing this ministry to do what it does. God has done, we're only halfway through the season, and God has changed so many hearts and so many lives. And I'll keep these updates going all throughout the season. Thank you so much.